Hey everybody, welcome back to Fireside Chats with A.R. Farina. That's me, A.R. Farina. And we're here ending our first season, as it were, in the deep discussion of Jane Austen's classic, Mansfield Park. So we've come to an end. I broke down all kinds of parts of Mansfield Park, what it is, what it isn't, what I think it is, the villains, the heroes, everything. And now we're going to start talking about, I'm going to have a two-part ending about how Mansfield Park inspired Boom, the award-winning Welcome to Mansfield, written by me. So I want to talk a little bit about a few things. So this episode here is going to be a little spoilery, as I'm going to give away some things, some problems that people seem to have with Mansfield Park. Now, to admit that there's problems with Mansfield Park, it means we have to admit that Jane Austen isn't perfect. That's hard for me to deal with. I love this book. I love it. However, for modern audiences, there's a problem. The most obvious problem is that her name is Fanny. Depending on where you live in the English-speaking world, that's not great. So even before you start to read the book, you're like, yikes, that's not great. However, the second part is, and this is a big spoiler for the end, she marries her first cousin. So that's a problem. So I knew I had to solve both of those problems as I started to try to write my own version of Mansfield Park. And the whole point of me doing the Austen Chronicles isn't that I think I can make Jane Austen's books better. I don't. Jane Austen's books are great. I love this book. Love this book. All of these books. Every room in my house, there's a full set of Jane Austen books. I have a Jane Austen action figure. She's awesome. However, as I mentioned early on, there's this whole different sense of what she is and what she isn't and what she could be. And this is a big one. I mean, this one's dense. Here's her book. Here's my book. Okay? This book, Fanny's a little kid and it ends with her wedding. My book takes place in 4 months. Now, to be fair, when I sat down to write it, I thought it would take place over 4 years. It took place over 4 months. My wife always tells me the story that when I write, the story just sort of tells itself, which is totally true. I just need to sit down and write it and let it happen. So I had a plan. It changed, but I'm happy with how it turned out. But so what we want to consider is how do we go about changing some of these things and why I made those choices and how I thought by modernizing Mansfield Park, I could get somebody to maybe come back and do this. Now, and I did have one reviewer admit she started my book. She could never finish this one. She started my book, got partway through, understood it a little, stopped, went back and read Mansfield Park, and then came back and finished Welcome to Mansfield, which is, what a treat. I mean, that is the most amazing thing ever. That's amazing. So that's what I was trying to get at. I was trying to get to the heart of the story, modernize it, make it less scary. And I think, there's these books, No Fear Shakespeare. I prefer to read the actual Shakespeare. And I'm okay with No Fear Shakespeare as long as they're next door to each other. This page is the Shakespeare text, this page is the No Fear Shakespeare text. So you're seeing the two things side by side. I understand. I get people hate Shakespeare for the reasons they hate it. I happen to love it. I love the richness of the language. I love sitting with it. But I also understand it's hundreds and hundreds of years later. And so here we are trying to tell this story, which I think is universal and really timeless. But the language is hard, the way that the characters interact, the marrying of the first cousin, all of those things are problematic. So, I need to get rid of those things. There's also some subtleties, right? I mean, there's definitely a lot of straight white girls, straight white guys. It's a lot of white. So, except for specifically, now this book, as we discussed, does deal with some slavery, but there's not any people of color in the book at all. And we do get that in Sanditon, unfortunately, the book she was working on when she died. So we never really know what she wanted to do. But for the most part, there's just lots of white people. So it's we got to get rid of that. And of course, in my books, which I'll get to in the next episode, I sort of, the main character doesn't have a look, right? Other than she's a certain size and she's a certain this and she's from a certain area and she has a certain accent. But after that, you can decide what she looks like, and that's part of it. In Austen's books, they're all pretty much just white ladies. So I wanted to take care of that. There's definitely some queer coding of some characters here, so I just made them queer in my book. And so we'll get into that. So what I try to do is just take some of that old problematic stuff that people had with it, bang that rust off, live in the story, love what she gave us, not make it better, make it modern. And and that's what's happening. I'm hopeful that continues to happen with her all the time. And I'm hopeful that in 50 years and 100 years and 300 years, somebody's reading Jane Austen and saying like, hey, we're missing the point here. What if I retold the story from Flargon 17, the satellite that's circling Venus where the last of humanity lives? Hopefully, Mansfield Park is there, and somebody on Flargon 17 is writing their version of Mansfield Park. My version, welcome to Mansfield, is what we're going to talk about next. So that's what some of the issues were. Those are the things I worked on. And tune in for the ultimate episode, this being the penultimate episode, the ultimate episode in Fireside Chats regarding Mansfield Park. All right, I'll see you next time.